Mike, it's me. I wouldn't ask if it wasn't important. But I need this. Please, just one favor. After all these years. Michael Jordan froze. That voice. It didn't belong to the present. It belonged to a chapter he'd shut tight, buried beneath trophies, banners, and highlight reels. Vanessa, he said slowly, like the name itself tasted like 1982. There was silence, then a soft, painful laugh. You still remember. How could he forget? She wasn't just any girl. She was the first one who saw Michael, not MJ. The one who stood courtside when the gym lights flickered and the bleachers were half empty. The girl who hugged him after his first high school loss and said, "I don't love you because you win." Now, 25 years later, her voice cracked. "I wouldn't have called. But it's my son. He's sick. Really sick." Jordan's heart thudded. "What do you need?" "I don't need your money," she said quickly. "It's not that. He needs a transplant. The donor's alive, but refusing. I was told there's one person he might listen to. And that's you." Jordan closed his eyes. His pulse picked up, not from fear, but from memories. "Why me?" he whispered. "Because you're still his hero. Even behind bars, he watches you. Every move, every word. And because," her voice dropped, "because I thought maybe you still meant it. That promise you made before you left." He remembered that night. Her tears, his words. "If you ever need me, no matter what, call." She had waited. A whole lifetime. "I don't even know what to say," he muttered. "You don't have to say anything, Mike. Just think about it. Please." Before he could respond, the call ended. The silence that followed was heavier than any buzzer beater he'd ever missed. He sat there for minutes, phone still in hand. He wasn't in the United Center. He wasn't his anus. He was 17 again, sitting on the porch in Wilmington, holding her hand, promising things they both believed would last forever. But life had taken him places she couldn't follow. He stared at the ceiling, trying to think clearly. But the images kept coming. Her smile at prom, her anger when he told her basketball came first, the letter she slipped in his bag when he left for UNC, the one he never replied to. His hands trembled slightly. For a man who had faced the brightest lights and toughest opponents, this was unfamiliar territory. Not because of what she was asking, but because of what she made him feel. He thought of her son, a boy he'd never met, a life hanging by threads, waiting for one man to speak. And for the first time in years, Michael Jordan didn't feel like the GOAT. He felt like a man who once made a promise, and might still have time to keep it. He stood up, clenched his jaw, and whispered to himself, "You said she could call. She did. Now it's on you." And with that, he picked up his keys, knowing the past wasn't done with him yet. "You said she could call. She did. Now it's on you." The words echoed in Michael's head like a chant, louder than any crowd he'd ever heard at the United Center. He sat behind the wheel of his car, but he wasn't driving. Not yet, because where he needed to go wasn't just a place. It was a memory, a wound, a door he'd locked for decades. He typed the address she gave him into the GPS, and it hit him like a punch. It was her old house. Same street, same faded number, same porch he used to sneak onto when her parents weren't home. He didn't realize how tightly he was gripping the steering wheel until his knuckles turned white. The car moved, but his mind stayed stuck in the past. Flashes of summer afternoons, the scent of her lavender shampoo, the fights, the laughs, the almosts. Everything that could have been if basketball hadn't taken him so far away. He arrived. Slowly, he stepped out. The porch light flickered. Some things hadn't changed at all. And yet, everything had. She opened the door before he could knock. Her face had aged, but not in a tired way. It carried grace, pain, strength, the kind only life could carve into someone. "You came," she said softly. "I had to." They stood in silence for a moment that felt like forever, and then she stepped aside. "Come in." He walked in, heart thudding. The scent of vanilla and old wood greeted him. Same creaky floor, same photo frame on the hallway table, except now, there was a boy in it, maybe 16. Bright eyes, familiar smile. "That's Jordan," she said. Michael blinked. "You named him." "No, not after you," she smiled sadly. But life's weird, isn't it? He nodded. Couldn't speak. I didn't bring you here to guilt you, she continued, leading him to the couch. I brought you here because I know who you are beneath all the noise. And I know you never stopped caring. I didn't, he admitted. I just didn't know how to say it. She looked down, fingers tracing the edge of a mug. I lied earlier. I do need one more thing from you. Michael waited. I need you to forgive yourself. That shattered him, because it wasn't about the favor anymore. It wasn't just about the boy or the transplant or the fame. It was about two people who had lost something, not because they didn't love, but because life moves fast and doesn't wait. I tried, he whispered, but every time I think of you, I remember what I left behind. She reached out, placed her hand on his. You didn't leave me, Mike. You just followed your dream. I never hated you for that. I was just waiting for this. He looked up, his eyes glassy. This won't be easy, he said. Nothing real ever is. The ghosts were there, in every corner of that house. But for the first time in 25 years, they weren't haunting him. They were healing him. And the journey had just begun. Nothing real ever is. Those words stayed with Michael long after he left the house. Now, he stood at the entrance of the state correctional facility. Cold brick, steel gates, and the weight of everything he'd never imagined he'd have to face. He was used to cameras and crowds. But this was different. This was personal. The guard eyed him, unsure. You Michael Jordan. Michael nodded. Didn't expect to see you here, the guard muttered, buzzing him through. Every step down the corridor felt like a memory being peeled open. He was here to meet the man holding back a second chance at life. Not for himself, but for a boy who never asked for any of this. The door opened. Behind the glass sat a man with hollow eyes. Tattoos lined his arms. His jaw clenched the moment he saw him. You actually came, the inmate said. Voice rough. Emotion buried under layers of pride and pain. Michael sat down, picking up the receiver. I didn't come here for me. A long silence followed. The man leaned forward. You know who I am? Michael stared at him. You're Jordan's father. The inmate chuckled bitterly. Not a title I earned. Michael didn't argue. He needs you, Michael said, voice steady. You're the match. The only one. The man scoffed. After everything I did, the drugs, the time I lost, the pain I caused. Now I'm suddenly useful. It's not about you, Michael replied, leaning closer. It's about him. He's a good kid, and he deserves a chance. I walked out on him, the man snapped. I don't deserve forgiveness. Michael's voice dropped. Then do something that makes you worth forgiving. The inmate looked away, jaw trembling. Why do you care? And there it was. The real question. Michael exhaled. Because a long time ago, I made a promise to his mother. Because that boy could have been mine. And because when you love someone, even when it's over, you never stop trying. The inmate stared at him. His tough exterior cracked for a moment. They told me I might not make it out of this place, he muttered. But if I do this, maybe he'll remember me for something good. He will, Michael said, even if he doesn't say it now. Silence again. Then, slowly, the inmate nodded. I'll do it. Michael's breath caught. No cameras. No headlines, the inmate warned. Just for him. Michael stood up and pressed against the glass. That's all anyone ever needed. As he turned to leave, something in him shifted. Not pride, not victory, just quiet relief. Outside, the air hit different. Lighter, realer. He didn't save a life today, not yet. But he opened the door to it. And as he stepped back into the light, he whispered to himself, You didn't run this time. You didn't run this time. But maybe he should have. Because the moment news leaked that Michael Jordan had visited a convicted felon, his ex's former partner, media exploded. Paparazzi swarmed his driveway. Headlines screamed, MJ involved in prison organ deal. Jordan's hidden past uncovered. It was never supposed to be public. No cameras, no judgment, just one life quietly trying to save another. But the world had other plans. He sat at the edge of his bed, phone buzzing nonstop. His manager called, his lawyer texted, Even teammates from decades ago were weighing in. Everyone wanted answers. Everyone wanted to know why Michael Jordan would risk his legacy for a boy who wasn't even his. But that boy had a name, and a mother he never stopped loving, and a truth no camera would ever catch. Michael threw his phone aside. He needed silence, not strategy. And then came the knock. It was her. Again. Tired eyes, trembling hands, but still standing. "You promised me one thing," she said, voice low. "No attention. No noise." "I didn't leak it," he replied. She stayed at him. "Does it matter? It's out. Everyone's talking." He stood. "Let them. I don't care about them." "I do," she whispered. "My son's in a hospital bed watching strangers debate his life like it's a headline." Michael's voice cracked. "Do you regret asking me?" Her silence hurt more than any answer. "I'm sorry," he said. She looked away, arms crossed. "He knows now, Mike. About you. About everything. You should have been the one to tell him." That hit him. He sat back down, fingers tangled in his hair. "I didn't think he'd want to know." Well, he does, and is asking why the man who visits in secret, fights in silence, never once looked him in the eye. He was breaking. Everything he did to protect her, protect the boy, even protect his own image, it was unraveling. Because real choices come with real consequences. And this wasn't about him anymore. He stood up, eyes finally meeting hers. "Where is he?" She hesitated. "Room 324. Without another word, he walked past her. Each step toward the hospital felt heavier than the last. People stared. Some whispered. Others judged. But he didn't flinch. Not this time. When he reached the door, he paused. Not out of fear. Out of hope. He knocked once. "Come in," came a soft voice. Michael stepped inside. And there he was, Jordan, for drip in his arm, tired but alert. A boy on the edge of becoming a man, trying to understand why his life was suddenly full of questions with no clean answers. The room went silent. Then the boy spoke, voice steady. "You knew my mom back then?" Michael nodded. "Yeah, I did. And you're not my dad." "No, but I never stopped wishing I was." The boy stared, then smiled, faintly. And just like that, the controversy didn't matter. Because the truth, spoken face to face, finally gave them both peace. "And you're not my dad." "No, but I never stopped wishing I was." That single line settled in the boy's chest like warm truth. It didn't fix everything. It didn't erase the pain. But it planted something he never thought he'd feel toward a stranger like Michael Jordan: trust. Michael pulled the chair closer, not as a celebrity, but as a man who had carried decades of unspoken emotion. "You look just like her," he said softly. The boy blinked fast, fighting back the sting in his eyes. "She never told me anything, just that someone once cared. But life got messy." Michael nodded slowly. It did. A quiet moment passed between them. No press, no spotlight, just one broken timeline being gently stitched back together. "Did you love her?" the boy asked. Michael's eyes dropped. He could still see her in that high school hallway, laughing with her hand on his chest, teasing him about missing free throws. He could still feel the ache of watching her walk away with someone else. The silence when she left town. The letter she never sent. "I love her more than I knew how to say," he replied. "And maybe I still do." The boy looked at his fall. "They say if the transplant works, I might have a shot." "It will work," Michael said, gripping his hand gently. "Your father," he agreed. "He signed everything." The boy blinked. Why'd he do it? Michael smiled faintly. Because even broken men can choose to do one good thing. The room fell silent again, until the boy whispered, "Will you be there?" Michael looked up. "I mean, when I go into surgery, when I come out, will you still be here?" Michael didn't hesitate. "I'm not going anywhere." He meant it. 3 weeks later, the surgery was successful. Complications were few. Doctors called it a miracle. But for Michael, the miracle wasn't medical. It was emotional. He sat by the window, watching the boy sleep, now stronger, breathing easier. The mother came in quietly and sat beside him. "He asked about you," she whispered. Every day. Michael smiled. I ask about him, too. There was a long pause. Then she touched his arm. You kept your promise. I had to, he replied. And now? She asked, eyes glistening. What happens now? Michael looked at her, truly looked. Older, wiser, softer, but still the girl who once held his whole heart. I think this chapter's done, he said gently. She nodded, understanding more in those words than he said out loud. He stood slowly, leaned over the boy, kissed his forehead. I'll be around, he whispered. Always, even if you don't see me. Then, turning to the woman who once changed his life, he whispered, Goodbye. And this time, it wasn't running. It was redemption. It was peace. It was finally letting go.